True that.
It's not like pro-choice versus pro-life for the political parties.
True
It's
that.
not even like economy so much. It's, you know, questions of nationalism or things like that.
Yeah.
Which I think gives you a good opportunity to say this is not a party political issue. This is an issue of human life and protecting the most vulnerable.
Welcome to Pentecostal podcast of Sekolah Tinggi Teologi Bethel Indonesia, Bethel Seminary of Indonesia. We're very glad to have you here with us in a special season. Of course, we have a very special guest, and here I am with you will be your host, Joseph Morris, one of the professor here in Seminary Bethel. So yeah, we have a very special guest. He is based in London. He is a researcher at the University of Oxford, and he is also a medical doctor and has authored numerous peer-reviewed papers. He basically just did a seminar to our seminary, and we are glad to welcome here Dr. Calum Miller. Hi, welcome, Dr.
Thank
Miller.
you.
Did I pronounce your name correctly? Oh, I'm glad. All right. So, yeah, how are you? It's been a busy day coming to Jakarta since Friday, and when this start, it's Monday. Yeah. So, yeah, how's your trip to Indonesia, basically?
It's been great. Yeah, it's my third time to Indonesia.
Oh,
so
third time.
I still only know 2 words, so I'm learning a word every trip. So yeah, getting used to that. It's much hotter than back home, but it's been a great week so far.
Okay. It's great to have you around. We're honored. We're grateful to have you here in our seminary. The seminar that you brought us, for our listeners, you can check to YouTube of Sinode GBI. The live stream is being held there. And yeah, here we want to know more about you, especially coming from Asian perspective. Before somebody is speaking, we have a saying, we cannot love if we do not know the people yet, the person yet, yeah? So is it okay if we know a little about your upbringing, maybe how did you encounter a kind of moment that makes you focus, that made you focus into the specific study, yeah, that you are very passionate to spread the pro-life movement, the pro-life choice, so that everybody can choose pro-life.
Yeah, I grew up in England, which is 95% pro-abortion or pro-choice. So almost no one believes pro-life in England.
Wow.
And as a result, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in abortion. So a quarter of my generation is missing just from abortion alone.
Wow.
So it's a huge issue, but
yeah,
most people in England don't see it that way. So that's the culture I grew up in. My family I still don't really know what they believe about it. So it wasn't a very religious or conservative family or anything like that. And it was really at medical school. When I went to medical school in Oxford, I was pro-choice. And over time, I realized that this is something really problematic. You know, this is a human being. I could see that when I studied. I could see the impact of abortion on the woman as well as on the child and what it does. I saw the fact that the baby was not different inside and outside of the womb. It was still a human being before birth and after birth.
I'm sorry, if I may, you said you were a pro-choice until you get to university. So who made you pro-choice before?
Just the culture. No particular person. It's just, you know, you absorb the surrounding culture and you just make assumptions based on that. I had done some reading, a little bit of reading. You know, it's they always say that a little knowledge is dangerous because you begin to think you're really clever and.
Wow.
And then you go the wrong direction and then you're very confident about it. Whereas you really need a lot of knowledge. So a little bit of knowledge, you know, I thought there are some good arguments for being pro-choice. But then over time I came to feel that the pro-life arguments made a lot more sense. I saw the damage that abortion did. I saw that this is a human being that is equal to the rest of us. And so gradually I changed my perspective until I didn't expect to be speaking about it a lot, even when I became pro-life. But as time went on, I was one of the only people that ever spoke about this in my country. I began to research it from an academic perspective, so I spoke more. And over time, doors just opened for me to really share this message. And so I ended up unexpectedly speaking about it all the time.
Wow, so it's all because of your study, because you know more than you choose pro-life. So it's not about your religious background, it's not about your family, which is conservative, which actually not really, or
No,
even
no.
not at all, yeah. So it really is about that. Is it possible if you tell us about your religious background, or,
Sure.
or more about
Yeah, so
social background?
I am a Christian, and what I found though is that the Christian beliefs about abortion reinforce, I think, what science already shows and what you can learn from the world. So in many ways, Christianity reinforces what you can know just from observing the world, like doing drugs is bad, getting drunk is bad. We can see these things in front of us, but Christianity reinforces that and confirms it, and there's a coherence between what we see in the world and what we find in the scriptures, because Christianity is true. So we would expect the world to confirm what we find in the scriptures. So for me, it was actually observing the world first, seeing the reality of the child, thinking about human equality. It was really the idea of human equality that convinced me most, because if you really believe all humans are equal, that has to include human beings in the womb. And so you have to include them as part of the equal human family with human rights. So for me, that kind of came first. And it was then I also realized that Christianity had a lot to say about this at the same time. So yeah, I think there was a nice convergence of Christianity and reason and science all coming together to sort of confirm the same message.
I see. Yeah, talking about Christianity, when I was in US, specifically in LA, I live in the Valley area, basically. So there, the Christian group are actually quite divided. Somehow, it's always political. It's always about, are you a liberal or are you a conservative? Are you a Democrat or Republican? That's why it's quite overwhelming when I went there. Like, why does it always have to be a dichotomy? Why cannot they just agree on a term with a case kind of situation, then you agree to a certain case problem, and it does not have to be that political. I mean, we heard your seminar just now. It's beautiful because it opened my mind. You argue that because of abortion, more death, suicidal rate, more anxiety, and even worse economic situation for the mother. And of course, it will affect the country. So it is clear in health, social, and economy, it is clear that abortion does bring a bad effect. Yeah, but I was wondering, when can all of this become less political or less religious? Because conservative Christian or maybe evangelical Christian, I guess 50 to 80% are pro-life. When can it go beyond political or religious situation?
It's a good question. I think we've been kind of unfairly influenced by America, which is a particularly polarized society, and where the politics all goes together. It's almost impossible to be a Democrat and be pro-life. It's almost impossible to be a Republican and pro-choice. And it's, you really just believe the package deal, because, in most other countries, people will think through an issue. They will think, okay, abortion, is it a child? Yes. Should we kill it? No. Okay, I'll be pro-life. And then they think, okay, what about the economy? Should we support, people who are poor with some tax money? Yes, I think that's a good idea, which in America would push you Democrat. So in most of the world, we sort of think through these issues individually, and we don't find any political party that, is perfect. And that should be expected, because we're Christians, we're not political partisans. So we follow God, and then we try and maybe vote for the party that is closest to our values, knowing that none of them are going to be perfect. Whereas in America, you really find that people just believe everything a party says. They think, if I'm pro-life, that means I have to be pro-guns, I have to be pro-low taxes, I have to believe in all these different things which really don't have a coherent ideology. Likewise, they think, okay, if I believe in, certain policies on race or certain policies on tax or certain policies on welfare, I have to be pro-choice.
Yeah.
And I think that US influence has really just influenced the rest of the world, so that even in England, where the politics is not like this at all, I get people accusing me of being a Republican. We don't even have that party in England. I get people accusing me of being pro-guns or pro-capital punishment or whatever. And it's like, where did you get this from? And
how is the political situation, the atmosphere of political situation in your country?
I mean, it's also polarized, but not as much.
Oh, not as much, all right.
So yeah, not as bad, but it's going in that direction, sadly.
I see.
So all that to say, as Christians, we believe that we should stick to the truth, God's truth first and foremost, and we also find truth in science and in the world as we see it. And so we have to follow that because all truth is God's truth.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, it really is just a tribalistic political mentality. And unfortunately, that's gone to the rest of the world. So I think in Indonesia, you have a good opportunity because your political system is so different.
Yes.
You don't even have the same main political debates.
True that.
It's not like pro-choice versus pro-life for the political parties.
True
it's not even like economy so much. It's, questions of nationalism or things like that.
Yeah.
Which I think gives you a good opportunity to say this is not a party political issue. This is an issue of human life and protecting the most vulnerable. And whatever your ideology is, you should be in favor of that. All of us should be able to protect women and protect children and agree that we should be working towards that. So hopefully you can get people from different political parties to all agree that this is good and work on common solutions and forget their party politics for a moment. Hopefully, I mean, maybe idealistic.
Hopefully US can.
Yeah. But yeah, you can at least begin to do those things. And you might find some individuals in each party that agree that, we need better education on pro-life. We need better support for pregnant women. Hopefully there will at least be a few people in all the parties who would agree with that. So I think you have a good opportunity to make it less political. But at the same time, this is a political issue because it's a human rights issue.
Yeah.
And if we really believe in human rights and the right to life, we have to advocate for that in politics. So we see throughout the Bible, Christians were often called to make a difference in the politics. It doesn't mean they became an ideologue. It doesn't mean they just follow one party and always do what they say. But it does mean that they engage in the civil society and try to make their country a better place. So Queen Esther, for example, was in her position as the queen, and they said, you're here for such a time as this. You should use the authority that you do have in the secular world to advocate for the people who are at risk or being threatened. And the Bible is full of examples of that. Daniel as well, and Joseph in Egypt, Moses. There are many political figures in the Bible who used their political position for the welfare of the people. And so that is what God calls us to do from a biblical perspective. It's not to support one party and always follow them, but neither is it to just be against politics and say we're in a different kingdom. It's about being engaged, but speaking truth to everyone and going where the truth leads us rather than where a particular person leads us.
Wow, that's a very good apologetics when we can set every agendas and really actually look at the truth itself. Yeah. However, when we say about truth, more women, maybe internationally, in Indonesia context, it's not that much, except more in the urban area or big city area, where it become less objective and more subjective. It become less logical and it becomes more personal. That they can put all your arguments down just because you do not have any credibility. And especially if it comes from a woman saying that, so how can you assure us, and when you're a guy, you're a man, trying to tell women that women should choose pro-life where her life is at stake, yeah? what argument or credibility maybe that you can provide so that women even can listen to you?
Yeah, I think one of the dangers of making this a women's issue is that it actually disempowers a lot of women at the margins of society.
Wow.
And this might seem counterintuitive, so I'll have to explain it.
Okay.
So what we know is that if you legalize abortion, a woman can say, it's my body, my choice.
Yes.
Fine, she has an abortion, whatever. But the reality is that she is the one who gets pregnant. So maybe there's a lot more free sex, people have sex with more different people, more unwanted pregnancies, because abortion is there as a backup option. So the woman keeps getting pregnant, or different women get pregnant, and they have to deal with the consequences. They have to get an abortion, which can be traumatic and dangerous for their mental health, or they have to have the baby, which means that they have to spend all the money, the time, the resources, the emotional, the physical health, all to help raise this child. Whereas the man can say, it's your body, your choice, and therefore it's your problem. And so he can just walk away. So the man can just go and completely forget about all the consequences. He doesn't have to deal with any of it. He goes onto his education, his career, to make money, to do whatever he wants. And it's the woman who is actually there alone, having to deal with this by herself. The reality is that sex was always there to lead to pregnancy, and it always will lead to pregnancy, you know, if you do it enough and in those situations. And the reality is that women will always be there to pick up the pieces and get pregnant and have to deal with that. The question is, do we make this a woman's issue and say, you're on your own, this is your issue, and the man doesn't have to do anything? Or do we say this is a human issue, where both the mother and the father have responsibility to each other, to the child, and to look after it? And my view is that, in fact, when you look at the evidence, when you legalize abortion, because all of these women are left alone to pick up the pieces by themselves, they have all of the burden, all of the problems, they are the ones who go into poverty. So abortion was supposed to liberate women to have careers, to earn a lot of money and everything. In fact, the opposite happened. Because it put all of the burden onto the woman, she was the one who began to take all the losses in the careers. She was the one who went into poverty. And the man is completely free to do whatever he wants. So those women are the people I think of when people say that this is just a woman's issue and it's nothing to do with men. I think of those women who were abandoned by the men because of that mentality, and who are now left by themselves all alone and go into poverty, go into mental health problems, and have no help from someone who should be there helping. So for me, this has to be a human issue, it has to be a woman's issue and a man's issue, because all of us were part of the problem and all of us need to be part of the solution.
Wonderful. Yeah, you really amazed me. I'm inspired very much. Yeah, thank you for coming. I'm sorry because I want to save as much time as we can. But basically for listeners, you're allowed to look more about the position, all the seminars, all the education that is given by Dr. Miller. Again, in the YouTube, I will describe you all the description that we have, including your website. Your website was very wonderful. It was very elaborative. Thank you very much. So, yeah, again, I want to say thank you for coming. Your opinion really enhances and deepens our foundation to really stick with God's word without making it religious. Yeah, it's not about religious boundary or political boundary. It's about truth itself. So again, Dr. Miller, I want to say thank you very much. There is a little humble gift for you.
Thank you.
I hope it can be a cute memento, for you for coming to our. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. Yeah, this is for you from our seminary, Sekolah Tinggi Teologi Bethel.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So again, to our listener, we are grateful to have you listen to our podcast. If you want to know more, you can click on the description under our YouTube. There's a website of Dr. Miller there, and learn more about abortion, about pro-life, and why it is true to choose pro-life. So again, We're ending this with Ikrais, and then salam sehati. God bless us. Thank you.